Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Have Your Say video and this is for UK vs the World Season 2 Episode 1. So today we'll be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll where you voted on the outcome of the episode, and we'll also be talking about some backstage tea about Mayhem Miller feeling tricked after her elimination. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. So I'll start by giving a recap of the episode. So let's first talk about the queens competing in the season, and I'll talk about them in order of their entrances. So we have Tia Kofi from Drag Race UK Season 2, Hannah Conda from Drag Race Down Under Season 2, Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha from Drag Race España Season 1, Mayhem Miller from Drag Race US Season 10 and All Stars 5, Charitha May from Drag Race UK Season 3, La Grande Dame from Drag Race France Season 1, Marina Summers from Drag Race Philippines Season 1, Jombas Blonde from Drag Race UK Season 4, Kita Minaj from Drag Race Holland Season 2, Scarlet Envy from Drag Race US Season 11 and All Stars 6, and last but not least, Gothy Kendall from Drag Race UK Season 1. Overall, I think this was a really interesting cast, and when the cast was originally announced, I did see somewhere online that someone said that this is the first ever All-Stars cast where none of the contestants have ever competed on the same season before. And I think that's really cool because it gives a different dynamic to this group because no one really knows each other from a previous season. And in terms of the queens, I think this is a really cool mix of queens from different countries and they all have different styles. One interesting thing that we found out at the beginning of the episode is that this is the first Drag Race UK season where there is actual prize money, and the winner will receive £50,000, which is about 63,000 US dollars. And I also read a tweet on Lawrence Chaney's Twitter, which I thought was interesting, and Lawrence said that because the UK queens don't pay taxes on their prize money earnings, unlike the US queens who have to pay about 40% tax, and it actually means that the UK prize money is about the same as what the US prize money is, back when it used to be $100,000 in earlier seasons, because after tax, it's actually about the same when you work it out. And just out of interest, I looked this up a little bit more, and Trixie Mattel once said during a podcast when she was talking to Canada Season 1 winner Priyanka, that Trixie said that she received about $66,000 out of the $100,000 that she won on All Stars 3. Whereas Priyanka said that she received all of her prize money because in Canada, prize money isn't taxed. And on a similar note, Bob the Drag Queen once said in a video that she was taxed 60% on her prize money from Season 8. And I'm obviously not an accountant, so I don't know the exact details and the ins and outs of the different taxation systems, so if anyone can explain, please put this in the comments, but I just thought that that was really interesting. Anyway, back to the episode, and I'm so glad that the UK now has prize money because I think that the queens do deserve it, and it was the only franchise without any monetary prize. And I think it will encourage more queens to come on the UK version in the future, and I think that that ultimately will be good for the show. I also remember a while ago that there was a big debate online as to why the UK franchise didn't have prize money. And at the time I looked it up and I found some articles that said that because the show was on BBC, the BBC is a public broadcaster, which apparently means they're not allowed to give prizes or sponsorships. And that's because in the UK, you have to pay what's called a TV license fee, which is a mandatory payment every year that you have to pay if you want to watch any TV in the UK. And that license fee money is then used to fund the BBC. However, there now is money on Drag Race UK, which is still on the BBC, so I guess that can't fully be true. And some people online were suggesting some potential reasons for this, and some people said that as long as the BBC itself doesn't fund the prize money, that it's okay, because they're not taking any of the money from the license fee that the public pays. So some people have assumed that World of Wonder must be supplying the prize money, which is why it's now allowed, although I couldn't find any concrete evidence to support this. So if any of you do know the real reason or you can shed any light on this, then please let me know in the comments. So back to the episode, and as with most premiere episodes, the queens find out that they're doing a talent show. So I'm going to go through each of the queens' talents in the order in which they appeared. So first we had Charitha May, who did an original song. I thought this was really fun and the song was really catchy. I loved the chorus of Hola Welcome, and I thought it was really cool to see Charitha referencing the fact that she's from Spain. The only slight issue I had, and I found this a lot with songs on Drag Race, is that I found the voice to be quite quiet compared to the backing track. So there were times where I just couldn't really hear what she was saying. Maybe I'm just a granny and I'm going deaf in my old age, but let me know if you had the same issue. Then we had Scarlet Envy, who did a kind of funny song about giving bad advice. I actually really liked this. I thought it was quite a funny, interesting idea. The judges did say later on that they thought the performance was a bit lacking though and needed to be fleshed out. I do think perhaps there could have been a few more jokes, and maybe it would have helped if the song had been pre-recorded, because that way Scarlett maybe could have just lip-synced and that would have given her more freedom to do a slightly more energetic performance to go with it. But overall, I thought it was still a fun performance. Then we had La Grande Dame, who created her own music using different noises that she made. And I thought this was really cool. It's something that we've never seen on Drag Race. And I also thought it showed a really different side of La Grande Dame and the fact that she's not just a fashion queen, but she's also really silly and camp as well. And I also thought the impression of Ru laughing was really good. Next we had Gothy Kendall, and she started off doing a kind of original rap verse, and I wasn't that keen on that part to be honest because I didn't think it sounded great, but then she suddenly got out some fire sticks and did sort of fire eating, and then she also spun around at the end and there was a big flash of fire, which I thought was a really cool effect. I think if she had just done the fire thing for the entire performance, for me it would have been better. And I also thought that it was funny that Hanaconda mentioned that Gothy looked really shocked that it actually worked, because that's also what I was thinking watching it. And I think that Gothy should just have a bit more confidence in herself because it was actually a cool performance. Next we had Marina Summers, who did a lip sync to an original song, and she also did a lot of dancing, and she spun around these kind of ball things that looked like fire, but I'm not sure what you actually call them. I thought that this was such an amazing performance. Not only did Marina look stunning, but the song was really catchy and her dancing was also incredible. And the spinning things also looked really cool, and they even glowed in the dark, which I thought was a really cool extra little touch. And overall, this was definitely my favourite of the performances because it was just so flawlessly done. Next we had Kita Minaj, who also did an original song, but this song was quite sort of psychedelic and she kept referring to K, which refers to K for Kita, I imagine, but it also refers to something else which I won't mention. I think in general the song was okay, but potentially not my favourite. I did really like the acrobatics though that she did, and when she spun around on that chair thing and the flip that she did, I thought that was really cool. Then we had Mayhem Miller, who did a sort of guided meditation. I liked the start of this performance because it seemed like it was going to be quite funny and irreverent, like when she said, quote, "never trust a fart." But then Mayhem just started laughing and didn't really say anything after that, and she said that she forgot her words, which is also what happened during All Stars 5 when she forgot the lyrics to her own song as well. I thought in general Mayhem handled it okay, and she seemed like she was having fun and just kind of laughed it off, and it did end up being quite camp. But it's just a shame that we didn't get to experience the full performance because I would have loved to have seen it because she obviously forgot quite a lot of the words. Next we had Hanaconda, who sung live with a piano. I enjoyed this because I thought Hannah sounded really good, and the bit where she moved away from the piano and made it obvious that she wasn't actually playing the piano I thought was quite funny. The song itself was also quite funny, and I thought the funny reveal that she did about having the wrong dress on was also a really great crescendo to the performance. And it really showed that Hannah is a kind of campy queen but also can serve a great look. Next we had Jomba's Blonde, who did an original song/rap about being a fashion queen. I thought it was a fun song with lots of references to her time on her original season, and it also had lots of funny bits in it. I also loved the moment when she had the wind machine. Personally, I had the same issue with this song as I did with some of the others, that I found it quite hard to hear the actual voice because the backing track was just so loud, but it was still an overall fun performance. Then we had Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha, who did a kind of original song about how to pronounce her name correctly. I thought this was actually really funny, and it was a very clever idea to reference the fact that a lot of people don't know how to say her name. I did think that it potentially seemed a little bit simple though compared to some of the other performances, but it was still a solid performance that was really funny. And I did see that Arantxa posted an Instagram story after the episode, and she actually said that she improvised that performance the night before it happened, and it wasn't her original idea. So if that is the case, it was a very fun idea, and given that it was very last minute, I think it came off really well. And lastly, we had Tia Coffee, who did an original song called Read My Lips. I thought it was a fun song, and Tia has previously released music, and I really liked a lot of her songs. They're always a bop, so I thought this was another great song. I think perhaps compared to some of the other songs that we heard, because Tia was singing live, it didn't sound quite as polished perhaps as some of the studio recorded versions that we heard of other songs. But I think that's fair enough, and I think that Tia does deserve credit for singing live because that's not always easy, and overall it was still a fun performance and a good song. Okay, so moving on to the runway for this week, and the category was for Queen and Country, so a look to show off your country. As usual, I'm not going to be critiquing the actual fashion of the looks because I'm the furthest thing from a fashion expert that you can get, so I'm just going to go through the outfits in order in which they appeared with any commentary that the queens gave. So first we had Scarlet Envy, who had a headpiece that was a parody of Mount Rushmore, which she called Mount Rushmore because it had RuPaul on it. And this outfit was a reference to the movie Drop Dead Gorgeous, where one of the characters wore a similar headpiece. Next we had Kita Minaj, who said that she was serving Dutch milkmaid cheese realness, but she was giving a sexy version. And then she also revealed a second look which represents her Indonesian heritage. Next we had Jomba's Blonde, who said that she is giving the national flower of Ireland, which is the shamrock, which is a type of clover. Next we had Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha, and she said this dress is inspired by the flamenco dolls that are set up on the top of people's TVs in Spain. Then we had Tia Coffee, who said that her outfit was a mix of British and Nigerian culture because her mother is Nigerian and her father is British. And the print on the dress is a Nigerian print, but it's in the colours of the UK flag. And she was carrying a purse which had the words welcome in both English and Nigerian dialect. And I thought the funniest thing about this runway was that RuPaul kept asking what was inside the purse, but Tia had already shown that it was actually empty, but RuPaul just kept asking. Next we had Marina Summers, who said that she was representing her Filipina heritage, and she was wearing a basket on her back full of rice plants, and she said that it was inspired by the fact that she grew up surrounded by farmers. Next we had Charitha May, who was dressed as Britannia, which is the personification of Britain. And Charitha said that she came to the UK 7 years ago and wanted to pay homage to all the people who welcomed her with open arms. Next we had Mayhem Miller, who was wearing an outfit inspired by the Statue of Liberty. And Mayhem said that she felt patriotic and black and beautiful, and she felt like she was on top of Ellis Island serving as a beacon. Next we had Gothy Kendall, who said that she was wearing a gender bleep costume with a deconstructed Union Jack flag as the cape. And it's assumed that the outfit is inspired by the King's/Queen's Guard, which stand outside Buckingham Palace and other royal buildings. Next we had La Grande Dame, who said that she's serving French stupidity, and the outfit shows a frog being impaled by the Eiffel Tower, because frog's legs and the Eiffel Tower are two very famous national symbols of France. And finally we had Hannah Conda, who said that she was giving Priscilla Queen of the Desert, which is a famous Australian movie about two drag queens and a trans woman who travel across the Australian desert in a tour bus. And Hannah also said she was serving frilled neck lizard realness, which is based on a type of lizard native to northern Australia. And she also said that she was paying tribute to the First Nation people Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders with a beautiful mural of artwork. So, moving on to the judges' critiques, and we find out that Charitha May, La Grande Dame and Marina Summers are in the top 3, with La Grande Dame and Marina being picked as the top 2. The bottom 3 are Scarlet Envy, Gothy Kendall and Mayhem Miller, with Scarlet being called safe. La Grande Dame and Marina lip sync for the win, and Marina wins. And Marina picks Mayhem's lipstick, which means that Mayhem is unfortunately eliminated. Okay, so now let's move on to the results of the Have Your Say poll, which you all voted on as to whether you agreed with the episode. So, question 1 was, do you agree with the outcome of this week's episode, i.e. tops, bottoms and elimination? And we had 78.3% for yes and 21.7% for no. So the vast majority of you agreed with the outcome of this episode, and I think that will become clear when we look at the results of the other polls. So question 2 was, in your opinion, who should have won this week? and we had Marina Summers with 76.5%, which was the vast majority. And I definitely agree with that. I thought Marina was absolutely amazing in the talent show. Hers was by far my favourite, and also her outfit was also stunning, so I thought she had a very strong week. Next we had La Grande Dame with 16.4%. And again, I think she did really well. She was funny in the performance and her outfit was also funny, but they were still both very polished, and I think she's clearly very talented and will serve us some great looks. And then in third place, it was kind of quite close between lots of them, but we had Hannah Conda with 2.1%, and I do agree, I thought Hannah did very well this week, and I thought both her performance in the talent show and her outfit were both really good. Question 3 was, in your opinion, who should have been eliminated this week? And with 86.2% of the vote, we had Mayhem Miller. And I do unfortunately have to agree. I think Mayhem forgetting the words to the performance in the talent show was a really big factor as to why she was in the bottom, because unfortunately we couldn't really appreciate the full performance because she didn't really say that much. But I will say her look on the runway was one of my favourites because I thought it was just so stunning and it was so simple but elegant. Gothy Kendall was next with 10.3%, and this does make sense because she was also in the bottom too. I thought her performance was okay. I think she had a shaky start, but at the end she kind of got it together and it was quite cool with the fire. But I think unfortunately she does lack a little bit of confidence, which does sometimes come across in her performances. And then we had Jomba's Blonde with 1.1%, although all of these were quite close in the poll. So question 4 was, in your opinion, who was the best in the challenge this week? And unsurprisingly, we had Marina Summers with 64%, which does make sense because of the reasons I said earlier. We then had La Grande Dame with 25.6%, which also makes sense. And then we had Hannah Conda with 3%, and not far behind we had Kita Minaj with 2.3% and Charitha May with 1.4%. Next was question 5, which is, in your opinion, who had the best runway look this week? And this poll, as you can see, was very split. It might be potentially one of the most split polls we've ever had. So with the biggest percentage, it was La Grande Dame with 42%. Then we had Marina Summers with 17.9%. And then we had Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha with 12.6%. And then we did have quite a close call between some of the others, such as Tia Kofi and Kita Minaj, who had 8.2% and 6.4% respectively. And Hannah Conda, Mayhem Miller and Scarlet Envy were also high on this poll. And finally, we had question 6, which was, in your opinion, who is the frontrunner so far, i.e. most likely to win the season? And again, unsurprisingly, we had Marina Summers with 60.7%, which definitely makes sense because she won the episode, but I also thought she performed so well, and I think she's definitely going to be an extremely strong contender. Next we had La Grande Dame with 29%, which again definitely makes sense. And then we had Tia Kofi with 3.6% and Hannah Conda with 2.7%. And I do agree, I think both of them were clearly fan favourites in their original season and they're both very talented, so I'll be interested to see what happens with those two, particularly in the rest of the season. Okay, so moving on to the comments from the poll this week, and this comment section was very varied, so I pulled out a couple of comments that I thought summarised mostly what people were saying. So first of all, we had a comment from my Patreon member Shelby, who said, UK versus the world stresses me out. I'm still shook from Pangina's exit last season. Sad to see Mayhem go, but loved La Grande Dame's talent show plus runway, was already a fan of hers from Drag Race France. And I definitely agree, I thought this episode was very up and down, and I think there were clear favourites from the performances, but I also wasn't 100% sure who was actually going to be in the top and bottom. And I agree that La Grande Dame I thought had a really strong week, and I'm really interested to see how she develops in the season, because she comes across as being this kind of very polished, very professional look queen who has very great fashion, but she also showed 2 times that she's very silly and camp. So the next comment comes from Kieran, who said, feels like this is going to be one of the best, most dramatic and tense seasons of Drag Race we've had in a while. The cast is great, most of them are some of my faves from their original seasons, such as Jomba's, Charitha, Tia, La Grande Dame, Scarlett and Marina. I feel they've cast a strong group of queens. If there's one thing I can say for sure is that it's definitely anyone's game. Brackets, Marina, Tia for the win especially. And I do agree, I think this is a great and very strong season with some real great competitors, and I would be very interested to see how it develops because I think we've only seen 1 episode so far, but everyone seems really super talented. There were also quite a few comments saying that people thought that Hannah Conda should have been high and potentially in the top 2. And I definitely agree. I thought Hannah was great in both the performance and the runway, and she was great on her original season. She's clearly a very talented queen, and she's also such a lovely person. You may have seen that I've interviewed her on my channel, and she's just as bubbly and crazy as she is on the show, so I'm really excited to see how that develops throughout the season. And as you can imagine, there were quite a lot of comments about Mayhem because of her talent show and forgetting the words, and quite a few people were sort of shocked that she forgot the words again. But we do have to keep in mind that there is a lot of pressure on the queens, and unfortunately if they do mess up, it can be something that is encapsulated forever, and we do need to just be careful not to sort of brand someone just because of one thing that happens on a TV show. It's also not clear whether the queens filmed this more than once, so it'd be interesting to know whether they did film it more than once, and did she forget the words both times. There were also a lot of comments about RuPaul's voice being really croaky, with some people saying that it sounded like Kermit the Frog, and someone also said we should take a minute of silence to pray for RuPaul's voice. And obviously you could tell throughout the show that RuPaul was definitely sick and her voice was really croaky, and she did even make a funny comment about this and said that she sounded like Bea Arthur, who was well known for having quite a deep voice. Okay, so now moving on to a little bit of backstage tea to do with Mayhem Miller, and it's not necessarily drama as such, but I just thought it was something interesting. So, in a recent interview with Gay Times, Mayhem was asked about her time on UK vs the World, and Mayhem said that she felt, quote, tricked by her elimination. As we saw in the episode, during Untucked, when the bottom two queens had to plead their cases to the top two queens as to why they should be saved, Mayhem offered both Marina and La Grande Dame an alliance, and she promised that if they saved her, she would save them in a future elimination. Well, in an interview with Gay Times, when Mayhem was asked how she felt after her lipstick was revealed, Mayhem said, quote, "At first I was like, dang, they tricked me. I got. I really did. I was like, they're going to keep me for sure, but no, it didn't work. I thought it was the smartest thing to do. At the end of the day, knowing that maybe I would be successful in other challenges, I would be a threat, possibly. If it was me, I would get rid of the threat. I don't care what kind of deal I made." And in a different interview with Pride.com, Mayhem said that the reason she offered the alliance to them was because of her track record on previous seasons, and she had done the same thing on All Stars 5 when she was in an alliance with India Farah, and Mayhem kept her word. So Mayhem said, quote, "I don't know why it didn't work because it's worked in the past. I was very matter-of-fact about it." Mayhem also spilled some backstage tea and said that when they were approached to be on the show, they all knew that the UK franchise had no prize money, and they all accepted that when they signed up for the season. And she said they had no idea that there would be prize money, but they weren't told that until later on after they had already signed up. And it's unclear when exactly the queens found out, so potentially the queens' reactions on the main stage were genuine when RuPaul told them that there would be prize money, but it's not clear if they were told then or beforehand. And Mayhem said that the prize money, quote, shifted the energy of the season and changed everything because the queens were more competitive because there was more pressure to win. Mayhem was also asked about the fact that on the show, she said that she had long COVID and that had affected her health and the way that she performs. And Mayhem said that her lung capacity is now much better, but it's still not back to 100%. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say for UK vs the World Season 2 Episode 1. Let me know what you thought of the first episode of UK vs the World in the comments. And who are you rooting for in the season? And I just want to take this moment to say thank you so much to my incredible Patreon members. In the You're a Winner Baby tier, we have Christian, Emerald1508, Ethan, Lisa, PC Smush and Rochelle. And then in the Shantae You Stay tier, we have Amy, Becky, Charlie, David, Linda, Shelby and Craig. Thank you so much. I really do love my Patreon community. You're all such great supporters and it really does make such a massive difference to my channel, so thank you all so much. And if you'd like to get early access to my videos such as this one, as well as a raft of other benefits, please consider joining my Patreon and supporting my channel, and I'll put a link in the description. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks again for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!